Change is possible. This podcast will show you how. Laura, could you tell me about the most challenging time you've experienced in your life?
So most recently, I've experienced the challenge of being diagnosed with ADHD. And it's only been diagnosed in the last couple of years. And I suppose the reason why I sought a diagnosis is because I saw things kind of popping up online. And I was ticking a lot of boxes. And I went into this online form and I ticked all the boxes, basically. So I went to my husband after I remember filling out the form and I said, God, I feel like I've, been living an alternative life, or a life that I didn't know that I was actually living, because I'm ticking all these boxes and I don't know where to go with it. So anyway, I went and got diagnosed, and I find it really hard to accept, because I thought of it as almost like a disability or like a mental illness. And I suppose maybe even though I'm a pharmacist and I have dealt with people all my life that have had mental illnesses or mental disorders or whatever way you might like to call it, it was hard to be on the receiving end of that.
Yeah.
And then, you'd look back in your life and think, actually, God, ADHD diagnosis now makes sense, because actually if I look back on the way I've lived my life, I've probably lived my life in a way that an ADHD woman who was masking ADHD lived. So that has been a challenge. So much so that actually I went and got a second diagnosis because I didn't really believe the first one. And then that psychiatrist said, yeah, raging ADHD, Laura. And, but there's nothing to be ashamed about. I do know that. And it's really important that people understand that. And it's really good now that I understand my own brain, and that my family understand my brain, and that my husband understands my brain, because I probably would have driven him crazy before, even just in terms of disorganization. When we started the business, not being able to just do simple tasks like answer really simple emails, I would have just left them, and that would have been something actually that followed me through from my career as a pharmacist as well. Like I remember my area managers, there'd always be a new area manager every few years, and the first thing they'd say to me is, Laura, why don't you ever answer your emails? But I suppose I just see emails coming in and go, I'll answer them later, and then I'd forget about them. Yeah. But I kind of got away with it because I loved my patients and my customers, so I was really good at that end of the pharmacy.
Making up for it.
Yeah, I made up for it totally in that way. But yeah, so that has been a challenge to accept that, I suppose. And I did try the medication for it, the Concerta, and it didn't agree with me. I couldn't sleep on it. I find myself feeling a bit spaced on it. And I know there are other medications that you can try and to try and alleviate some of the symptoms of that like low level anxiety. But I have found that now that I understand my brain more, I just don't front load my calendar the way I used to. Like I literally would have had 10 things to do in a day, only got through 3 of them, and then go to bed feeling really guilty that I haven't got it done. And if I was to look back on my life as an adult, I probably did deal with low level anxiety my whole life without realising it. And I never would have thought of myself as an anxious person. Like me and anxiety would never have been in the same sentence, because I'm real happy. I had an amazing childhood. I had no trauma. You and I were just talking about the fact that sometimes, I was at a show once and I was listening to Tara Rafter talking about the trauma of her life and living with an alcoholic parent. And, you have people in the audience crying and, they were relating to her trauma. And I'm like, Jesus, I nearly feel like I want some trauma because I can't relate to any of this, like I'm saying that flippantly. But yeah, so I don't know where I'm going with this now.
Well, it's something that I'd love to jump into there, Laura, as well, is because it's like a superpower and a kryptonite. Because I know you, I've been in your podcast, we've had conversations, and you are doing phenomenally well with business. We'll get into that soon. And I would say part of ADHD or the symptoms that go with that was your superpower in terms of pushing those areas in life. Like even impulsivity, like I come from addiction, I probably could have easily been diagnosed with ADHD, but I think of impulsivity as functional impulsivity. It can be functional. I boldly do things that serve me certain purposes in life, but it brought me to hell in terms of addiction. So where was the kryptonite in terms of your ADHD? Like it's obviously served you in certain
Yeah.
ways, but you talk about anxiety, you talk about guilt. So is that what were the challenges that it brought you, I suppose?
So, for instance, I suppose the low level anxiety would have been that I could never sit still. And I still can't. I still find it very difficult to sit down and say, watch a television program. So, for instance, I never watched ET as a kid. I never really watched television. I was always on the go and busy doing things. And I think that that's probably, looking back on it, exercise was my form of dopamine, you know, but I always did really well in school. So I remember when I told Mum that I have it, Mum was like, but Laura, like I feel now, how did I not know that you didn't have it? Like, I feel guilty for not knowing that you didn't have it. And I said, well, you know, I suppose it manifests in different ways, particularly in girls. So I did really well in school. I was always, but I wanted to get A's. Yeah. So I was like hyper-focused on studying and getting A's. So nothing would have stopped me from doing that. So even my family would say that when I was studying, like, I have very sensitive ears, so they could not make any sound when I was studying for my Leaving Cert. And my sister even says, like, Laura, we used to walk around the house on tippy toes, and we thought that that was normal until we started studying, and because I'm the eldest, and we realised actually you don't need absolute silence. So say, for instance, my room, my bedroom where I was studying was above the television room, and they could only have the TV on 3. If it went to 4, I'd be banging down, like, terrible. I'll never forget storming down the stairs once because Dad had left the kitchen door open. I came storming into the kitchen, and my poor Dad was like, oh, like, he looked frightened because I must have had this mad, angry look on my face going, keep the kitchen door closed, I've told you, because I can hear you talking. And then later in life, in the pharmacy, like, I'd be in the dispensary and the girls would be down the other end of the shop, like my colleagues, talking away, and I could hear their conversation, and I'd like shout down going, hey, what are you saying about that person? They're like, how the fuck did you hear that? Like, you can hear the grass grow. And that's a sign of like ADHD or a little bit of neurodiversity, is really sensitive hearing, or that sensitive, I don't know, some people have sensitive eyes, some people have sensitive ears, some people are sensitive to smell. I'm very sensitive to smell as well. I'm not sure if that's part of it. So yeah, so all of those things. And then the low level anxiety, I suppose, would have been, I could never sit still. So I remember moving into my brand new house when I was in my 20s with my, then boyfriend, now husband. And it was our first day in the house, and we were sitting down on a Sunday night watching TV, and I was like, okay, I have to go and call into Mum and Dad. And he's like, why do you have to leave to call into Mum and Dad? I said, I just have to. He's like, would you sit the fuck down for once and watch a bit of TV with me, So yeah, so interesting. And then and he'd even say that when I had the babies, so I have 3 sons, and I wanted to breastfeed them, and nothing would stop me exclusively breastfeed them. I would do it until I was literally dead on the floor. And it probably affected our marriage in a way as well, our relationship, because I was obsessed with the fact that they had to be fed by the boob for the 6 months. Now, I didn't make it at 6 months. I had to give them solids by 5 months because there were 3 big lads. But I was convinced that if they got formula, that I had failed them as a mother, which is absolutely not true, and no mother should feel like that. But if I did something, I was just totally hyper focused on it. So he would say, actually, now that we think about it, Laura, you were totally hyper focused on the breastfeeding, or totally hyper focused on the babies, or I've probably always had something to be hyper focused on, and now it's the business. Do you know what screams at me as well, Laura? I can relate to so much of that. Like, I have those compulsions in terms of it used to be compulsions to do drugs, but now it's like, if I say I'm going to exercise that way, I have to do it that way. If I say I'm going to do that with the business, I have to do it that way. And I could be sitting there and thinking about something. We could be watching telly, but I say, no, I said I have to do that, so I have to do that. And it's like perfectionism, compulsions, as you mentioned there, low level anxiety, if that's not happening, not being able to sit easy with yourself. Poor timekeeping as well. Like, awfully poor timekeeping, to the point that, say, I would try and squeeze. So before I come over to you today, I was trying to squeeze a yoga session in. Even though I should have started at half an hour beforehand, I didn't. I was trying to squeeze something else in. Yeah. So I was looking at the clock going, okay, I'm just going to get this done. So then I'm always like trying to squeeze as much into the hour that I can. And then I'll end up being a little bit late, or I'll end up feeling guilty that I'm late. And then but I can't change that. Yeah. It's very strange. And it's not that I think that my time's more important than yours, because I know that people that are perpetually late, other people will say, oh, well, they think they're more important than I am. That's a meme that goes around. But it's just that I just have no concept of that. Actually, it's going to take me X amount of time to do this. I should really just have a cup of tea and sit on the couch, and then leisurely make my way across town to Brian.
But a cup of tea, right? And this is where I struggle. I wonder if it comes from you as well. A cup of tea, me sitting on the couch with a cup of tea is like, right, but I won't get that done. It's like not competitiveness, it's overachieving. And you said that about getting the A's, and you changed the norms in the house. This is the norms that everyone has to be quiet because I am trying to achieve something here. So is there an achievement thing with yourself where you're trying to be, you're obsessed, you're trying to achieve, but you're trying to get somewhere? Is there something in that?
I don't know, actually. I don't know, like maybe competing with myself, because I'm not competing with anyone else.
Yeah.
I don't know. And like, even with the business and that, I'm like, why am I doing it fundamentally? Because it's not for money. It really isn't.
Yeah.
It's not. It's this thing that I have about really helping people and making people, understand their health in a lot of ways. And I suppose it's to make a living, of course, as well. But I don't know where that drive comes from. It's probably an uneasiness of maybe, like, I'm a content person, as in I'm very happy with my lot. I'm very grateful. I've 3 healthy kids. I've a husband who still likes me after all these years. I took him to the Debs and he's still hanging around.
I like the way you say likes.
I know, he definitely loves me. Me. And my parents are healthy, and my in-laws are healthy, and my greater, wider family network as well. But maybe there's just a little bit of uneasiness in me. I don't know, a restlessness, I suppose, that can't be quenched by maybe anything. And that's not to say that I'm never satisfied. It's just more that maybe I'm just always a little bit uneasy. This is turning into a therapy session, Brian.
No, I can really relate to that, Laura. It's like mindfulness. Let's say as an example, I was a big proponent of mindfulness, but I struggle with mindfulness, and it could be the trauma that I experienced. I don't know. It could have been who I am. Our whole family has a language around this. Say, they're in a heap, and it's anxiety, like in that low level anxiety. But it's an inability to sit with yourself. But I think we put these into discrete boxes and labels. I don't think it's as clean as that. Sometimes, like, you're talking about purpose, so you have an uneasiness to go and fulfill a purpose, and I think different things can land in different ways.
I think so too. And then you have to wonder as well, they always say at the end of your life, if you're lying there and the nurse says to you, what do you regret the most? It's like, that I worked too hard and spent enough time with my family. Like, I hope that isn't me, because I do really try and make that time for my family, even though I suppose, in the last couple of years, I suppose I've been really, really busy, but I do try and make that time. And I'm getting good at now saying no. Whereas before I used to say yes to everything and then feel overwhelmed and be overbooked and be tired. And now I have learned that I need to go, let me think about that and put down the phone and then think about it and then go back with the answer rather than saying yes immediately. So I'm learning, but I think you need to make loads of mistakes along the way before you have learned.
It's all about mistakes, and I want to jump onto the business stuff that you're doing at the moment as well. But I think something that really struck me that you were talking about there, like, there's always this debate: nature, nurture. Is it the environment that causes the problems? But the one thing that biology and psychology keeps coming back to, like, we're born with a certain temperament, and it's a sensitivity to stimuli. And sometimes, like, you're talking about sensitivity with your ears and smell and stuff like that. I think just sometimes there's this overarching sensitivity that, again, can be a kryptonite and your superpower. It can make you more intuitive to things as well. And I think in life, like, so many of the things, the challenges that we have, we can make them work for us, or they can work against us, and it's what we do with that that's really important.
Yeah, 100%. And I suppose that maybe the fact that I never knew I had it, or never thought there was anything wrong with me, and I still don't think that there's anything wrong with me. I just maybe have a different brain to someone else. Like, I think Dr. Sarah Carty, who's the ADHD specialist that I did a podcast with, said she likened it to having a Ferrari with bicycle brakes, so a Ferrari brain with bicycle brakes. So you just can't stop. And that's it. Like, I'm always thinking, I have 100 things. Like, even I'm talking to you and I'm thinking about other things in my head.
Yeah.
I just have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
So it's strange. Actually, this is kind of the first time I've had such a frank conversation about it, because I usually do my own podcast, and the guest is the superstar, and maybe and we have had ADHD conversations, but I've only ever really alluded to it, because I suppose I don't want to be the poster girl for ADHD either, or it to be kind of something that becomes Laura's known for that, as opposed to the work that I do more so in women's health. And then also, because I'm a pharmacist, it's really important that I'm giving out the right message. About, the therapies that people can seek and the medications that they can take. So say, for instance, people always ask me, are you on medication? And I, being on medication is fine, and it really works for some people, but for some people, they find that it doesn't necessarily work for them, and they may go through a couple of different types of medication, and that's fine. And then they just find that, look, if I just stay organized and stay on top of things and learn how to manage things, and that mindfulness that you're talking about, then that works for me. So I'm acutely aware that as a healthcare professional, I have to be really, maybe it not be such anecdotal evidence and my own personal experience of ADHD, because I'd be afraid of influencing other people in the way they seek treatment.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I'd love to move gears and sort of talk about the business stuff as well. And like, I'm actually going to use this now. You're saying that's a therapy session. I'm going to use this selfishly for myself, because I have so many questions around metabolic health and supplements and stuff like that. But personally, what I've found is that we are so different as humans, like so different, that a lot of things just don't work for everybody. Nearly nothing works for everybody. It's all very nuanced. And I suppose can you tell us a little bit about the business, how it started? Like, you became a pharmacist straight off the bat, and then how did you find where you are today?
So when I went into pharmacy, I was 18, I went into pharmacy school in Trinity. So that was what I wanted to do. I always loved healthcare, but I also loved like kind of chemistry and maths, and didn't necessarily want to be dealing with blood and guts, which is where I saw doctors. Yeah. That's what I saw the doctors did. And now I've learned since that you don't necessarily have to deal with blood and guts at all. You can do all kinds of different things. But anyway, I'm glad with the path that I chose. I did enjoy pharmacy. I was able to apply myself. Although another thing that happened when I was in first year college, I met my now husband, and I just went off the rails, because I'd studied so hard for my leaving, I think, that I then went into college, and it was like a 5-day, 40-hour lecture and lab week. That was what it was for the whole of the first year. And I just checked out and failed miserably first year. And my poor parents didn't know what was going on. They thought I was doing all kinds of things. So that was like absolutely miserable. And I had to study all summer to get my repeats. And as a result, then didn't really enjoy college for the rest of it, because I was always worried that I was going to fail, that kind of way. But so I went into pharmacy, and I loved the study of pharmacognosy. So pharmacognosy is the study of plants and herbs for medicinal purposes. So we all know that our original medicines came from plants. Like you had, your apothecaries mixing things in pests and mortars years ago, poultices on cuts and grays and stuff like that. Loved that aspect of it. Loved pharmaceutical chemistry. And then I had the opportunity to go to India when I was in college. My husband's family were working out there. So I went to India and absolutely fell in love with it. So fell in love with yoga, fell in love with Ayurvedic medicine, which is where people that are just living their lives, they go to an Ayurvedic medical practitioner, so a doctor, and they get prescribed plants and herbs and teas and particular recipes that suit their constitution. So the doctor will give you like a 2-hour interview, find out exactly everything about you, and tell you this is the way you should be eating. You should be eating these spicy foods, or these cooling foods, or you should be drinking these teas, or taking these mushrooms. So I fell in love with that, okay? Real preventative health. And meanwhile, I was studying pharmacy. So I went back to India a couple of times and did more practice, like really learnt Ashtanga yoga, loved it. Delved more into Ayurvedic medicine, and then came into traditional Chinese medicine as a result. So by the time I'd left college, and I knew an awful lot about Ayurvedic practice and traditional Chinese medicine practice, and I was like a young pharmacist, 23, 24, and I was just seeing people coming into the pharmacy all the time through no fault of their own, just looking for, say, codeine-based painkillers for back pain. And, they'd be hobbling in, they'd want the codeine, and you can see a lot of them would maybe want it way too regularly. So, they're becoming dependent on it. And not only the codeine based, but I did see us as like kind of a sick care system rather than a healthcare system. So you have people coming in and, they are treating long-term illnesses, and that is brilliant. And like medicines are absolutely fantastic, and they have saved so many lives. But I was very much interested in the preventative health aspect of things, even, 20 odd years ago. We're now seeing all of that coming to the fore right now. So when people were coming into the pharmacy, I qualified in 2003. So this was like 2 years after the Women's Health Initiative study came out, which was a study that basically linked HRT to breast cancer. HRT prescribing fell off a cliff. An entire generation of women did without any kind of form of HRT support. Menopause wasn't really discussed, and I had women coming into the pharmacy tearing their fucking hair out. Literally going, I do not know what is wrong with me. I want to stab my husband for just breathing in the same room as me. I am so irritable with my kids. I don't want sex anymore. My vagina's dry. What is wrong with me? And I couldn't give them anything. I had nothing to give them because they weren't being prescribed HRT because it really generally wasn't being given out, only by very small select doctors who actually, one of them said to me, because I learned how to read a scientific paper, and actually if you'd read that properly, you would have realised that actually that study was completely flawed the way it was presented. So then I had nothing really to give them OTC wise. Like, there was a few things OTC, but I had nothing really to give them. So I used to send them around to the health food store because they did like some functional mushroom powders, and they did, like maybe some ashwagandha. We didn't really sell stuff like that in the pharmacy back then, even though pharmacists were the traditional alchemists and we did all those herbal remedies. Kind of pharma took over, and the double-blind clinical trials came over, and that's brilliant. And we were dispensing all of those medicines, which is really important for health, and it's really important those clinical trials were done, of course. But as a result, then we, I suppose, lost the wisdom with herbal medicines and things like that, which can be very beneficial just from a day-to-day living, not necessarily like treating illness, but just day-to-day preventative health and just making yourself feel better holistically. So I used to send people around to the health food store, and they'd come in with bags to me then, and I developed a really good relationship with the health food store, because then they'd send people around to me that had bought stuff going, I'm on this medication, can I take it with these products? And, so I really learned a lot from the people on the shop floor, from my customers. That's where I learned all my skills. That's where I did all my customer research, because, I remember going to people and saying, I have this idea for these functional mushroom supplements, and they're like, well, where's your market research? And I'm like, well, I just know because I'm like talking to women for the last, 12 years, and they're like, oh no, you need to go out and like spend loads of money on market research. So I didn't, but I didn't. I knew there was something if I could get the formulas right. So I went about doing the R&D in the formulas. I just like tinkered around for years and years, like, breastfeeding babies and in and out of labs and stuff like that. And then I finally got them right. I remember my husband going, Jesus, would you just fucking release them? Would you just do it? Was
there a fear around releasing?
There was a fear.
Yeah.
There was a real fear. Do you know what it was? It was a fear about what would my peers think of me, because I'm, releasing, say, herbal remedies and mushrooms and vitamins and minerals.
It's like why a lot of doctors are afraid to go down that route. It's the peers, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I was afraid of what my peers would think of me most of all. And then I was afraid that do people just think I'm another Insta-hun, just trying to, throw something out onto the market, even though like the Instagram came after, like this idea was something that was in my mind and that I was working on way before any kind of Insta fame. I was going to do it regardless of the
Instagram was a thing.
Oh
even,
yeah,
like 23,
yeah, 100%. So then we released it in, I think it was the 2nd or 3rd of June 2023, and I'd already gone to a couple of pharmacies, and they said, Laura, the market's saturated, like, even though, and mushrooms really, don't know about that. So then I just went on my stories, and I only had around 30,000 followers back then. That was only 3 years ago. And I went on my stories, and I just said, I've done this, and just the sales come in. The sales came in on Shopify that night. Appetite was there. And then 2 days later, I started getting phone calls from pharmacies. Well, not phone calls, messages going, where do we stock this? So I phoned a distributor, Whole Foods Wholesale, who Ronan in there, I have to give a big shout out to Ronan O'Flynn. He had given me and held my hand throughout the previous year, given me so much time, conversation wise, just about like formulae and what, this and that, and what, just a sound advice with he'd no motive. He'd no, maybe he knew deep down that if he was nice to me, he'd get the distribution agreement. But actually, I don't think so. He was just really giving of his time, and I'm sure he's done it to loads of other people. But he was the one man that I wanted to go to when I wanted to go into pharmacy, and I went to him, and I didn't go to anyone else. And Whole Foods have been distributing my products into pharmacies and health food stores nationwide since then. So we're in 1,500 pharmacies and health food stores now.
And it's crazy because I've met you, it was about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and we've chatted. You've given me samples of your products. So I love taking, we'll get into that in a few minutes.
You'll be chasing your missus around the bedroom now, with that andropause.
I know. It was brilliant. But there was something that I think is really important that you touched on there as well. Like, it's around the medical practice. Like, it's about pharmaceutical companies. It's about making profit. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And I think they've lost sight of that. And the medical practice has to an extent as well. And people talk about longevity, but it's not about, people aren't living longer, they're dying longer. And I remember hearing that comment and I was like, oh my God, they're being given lots of medications, and a lot of these things are really powerful. They really, really work, but it's just nearly keeping them alive. They're not living. Whereas this preventative stuff, the stuff you're talking about, is helping you to actually live.
Well, this is it, and it's all about, I'm, diet, sleep, exercise, and stress reduction. Okay, now they're not sexy to talk about, right? And I suppose they're hard. Yeah. It's much easier to take a pill, but know amount of pill stuffing, whether it be supplement form or HRT or any kind of medicine, is going to have the same impact on your life as exercise, as sleep, as stress reduction, and as diet. And we know that. But I suppose it's hard to do. And in this day and age, it's hard to implement as well. You need to be really focused. But exercise is a huge part of my life. And as I alluded to before, without even knowing it, it's definitely the reason why I can keep a calm mind. And it's given me that dopamine hit that I probably would miss otherwise. So, you know, I obviously know my own brain, and that's why I do exercise. But even just from a longevity point of view, like I am lifting weights, and we should be lifting weights so we can literally wipe our arses, do our grocery shopping, tie our shoelaces when we're in our 80s. Because, you know, live that independent life. And you have that kind of, I suppose, a few short years where we're ill, or like a few short months, or just go out with a bang, as opposed to, and there's nothing wrong with someone needing help, I suppose, but I want to live a long and healthy life for as long as healthily as I can, and then just go out with a bang. I don't want to be in a hospital bed, incontinent and unaware of my surroundings in my 80s or 90s. I'd much prefer to be living independently. So really I think that's the message, and I think that's what we really should be trying to get out there. Like, it's so important. And now that we are living longer and there are medicines that can help to keep us alive, but that in conjunction with all the other lifestyle factors is so, so very important. So that's why I bring out all, you know, I've like 9 supplements now, and they all allude to different things. And I wanted them to be really like, people understand what they were when they read the pack. So it wasn't just like, what does this do? Because I also saw way back then when I was 23, 24, people were confused about nutritional supplements. So many on the market, so many claiming all these kind of things. And you have to be careful. Like, I'd be questioning supplements or supplement companies that are claiming crazy, outrageous things, because, you know, first of all, in Ireland, you're not allowed to, which is really important to me as a pharmacist. It's not ethical either. But I see some ads coming in from different companies claiming like fat loss, lose belly fat, lose this, do that. You'll never, ever claims. See me doing anything like that. Or, you know, it's really important that people don't say this is a replacement for your medicine. I'd never, ever say that. It's like, this can be a support to what you're currently taking, or you can take it, you know, if you want to try something a little bit more natural before you go on to medicine, or, you know, or if you're trying to change your lifestyle in a certain way and have that more holistic approach. But I think it's really important that you're listening to what people are actually saying.
How many podcasts have a sponsor whose primary objective is creating positive changes around the world? With a focus on nurturing youth well-being, the Kind Foundation's message is simple. Kindness is powerful and worth paying forward. In each episode, we share a challenge inspired by their work and ethos. Small actions create big ripples. This week's challenge is about finding the joy. Simply take time this week to find joy in your life, whether that's with loved ones, having your first cup of coffee in the morning, or walking out in nature. Find the joy in your life today. Yeah, I think the exercise piece is just like, for me, I talk about there's no magic wand, just powerful tools we forget to use. And it's breathe, move, connect. That's my thing. Breathe, move, connect are the 3 things. But sleep is so important to me. It's something that I probably lose out. I need to build on my sleep. I need to get that 7.5 hours.
I'll have to give you my own or relax. That'll just help me chill.
Please do. But you know what's really key as well? I think the exercise piece, like, I exercise religiously, and it's so I can climb mountains when I'm 80, so I can go skiing when I'm 80, and I want to be doing that successfully all of those years. So I love the way you talk about that. It's the supplement, it's the help, the initial practices that are super, super important. What are the supplements, the key supplements that you'd recommend that you give?
I suppose it depends on what you want from your life. So say, for instance, I'm on my meno and peri, obviously like I'm 45, deep in perimenopause. I'm on my skin hair nails glow for my hair, my skin, my nails, and then I'm also on I take my Orno Relax. Yeah. I also have a cholesterol product that I've made come out with just most recently with plant sterols to help lower your cholesterol naturally, and it has B vitamins in it to protect your heart too. So, but I do a joint bone muscle product, and it's really good for post-gym recovery, post-run recovery. You can take that. It has turmeric in it, boswellia, it has MSM, hyaluronic acid, glucosamine, and then vitamins and minerals. I have something really for everyone in the audience. And then with my most recent one, my andropause, Shrooms Andropause for Men, it, interestingly enough, now that's the first to market with something called that, with the shilajit, with the lion's mane, with the vitamins and minerals, really focused on males over 40, because we've had a huge conversation around menopause recently, which is really, really important because women's health was absolutely just left to one side and women have been suffering. But I really think that it's important that we have the conversation with men too, because
the pendulum is swinging, like, and it's not stopping. Yeah.
No, it isn't. And men, like, I want my husband to be happy and to be as fulfilled as he wants to be. But like the thing is that men, late 30s, early 40s, their testosterone levels begin to decline. Testosterone is what gives you as a man drive, purpose, strength, makes you want to go out and kill deer. You know, it makes you want to go to the gym and work out. So when you're losing that, it's a slower decline than, say, you know, our estrogen just falls off a fucking cliff, right? And it's very profound. So with men, it's a slower decline. And I think that we used to, and maybe we still do, you know, slag men, the midlife crisis. Sure, look at him, he's in his lycra and he's climbing up mountains in it.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It is. And he's, you know, bought a bike and he's climbing up mountains now. That's his midlife crisis, or he has a new girlfriend or whatever. But I think that if we are making something that helps to support testosterone levels naturally and gives them their strength back, and you know, spermatogenesis and their protein synthesis and it helps with vision and hair and stuff. That's what my product does. And it is like, so my Men on Perry is basically my best selling product, but Andropause is nearly up there, and it's only out since March. And the amount of men that are sliding into my DMs, you know, I'm 99% female following with 1% gay men. And now Mihal from Tipperary, who's 57, is sliding into my DMs going, excuse me, would that Andropause work for me? So like, it's really interesting. The conversation has to be had.
Well, can I say something to you? Because you gave me 2 boxes at Wellfest of the Andropause. I was taking them straight away. I just trusted you straight away when I started taking them. But I was over in Las Vegas working a while ago, and I was getting like 3 to 4 hours sleep, and I measure my heart rate variability, my resting heart rate. It literally fell off a cliff. And it was around that time that I started taking the Andropause. Now I've started to, obviously, me sleeping got back in order, and I was doing a lot of flexibility training because my physio was always killing me. I do the weights, I do the running, but I don't do flexibility training. So like a scientist now, I have to work out what it is. But it's between Andropause, the flexibility training, and getting better sleep.
It's everything.
It's everything.
It's a combination of everything. And that's your holistic health, Brian.
And I feel fantastic. But the metrics are showing that as well. It's about that, but the basics are really, really key. So I'll have to do a little bit of experimentation there as well.
I some men who said that on their whoops they're sleeping better, or they're just, you know, and I got a message in from a woman. I do confessions every Sunday on my Instagram, right, where people just write in all kinds of anything that's on their mind.
Confessions, I love it.
And some woman wrote in, I'm 43 and just found out I'm pregnant. My husband's 50 and I'm blaming your Andropause.
Well, that's it. So you're not going to get a better testimonial than that.
I am not taking responsibility for that.
That's amazing. And can I circle back a little bit as well? What would you put down? Obviously, supplementation is key for you. Exercise is key for you as well. What are the other factors? Because when I think of you, Laura, I think you're just so full of energy, so full of life, and that's what's lacking in the world for a lot of people today. Like the world is challenging today. Mm-hmm. Is there any other facets that you put that energy and your drive and your motivation down to?
I have a real need to tell people about how they can help themselves. So I would have seen in the pharmacy women struggling for years. I've just alluded to it. But, you know, I would have had women. I had a woman in her 70s that came into me and she was on UTI after UTI, antibiotic, right? And I remember sending her I said, listen, I think like if this is your like 6th this year, you need to go to your doctor and get vaginal estrogen. That's probably what you need. You're lacking in vaginal estrogen and that's causing your UTIs. So she went to her doctor and her doctor didn't even examine her. She gave her the vaginal estrogen, but the woman couldn't get the vaginal estrogen in because her vagina had actually closed over because of the atrophy that had happened, right? So she is not the only one. Now, that sounds like a very scary story, and I do not mean to put fear into women, but women have traditionally, particularly in Ireland, not been taught about their health. Their anatomy in particular, their vaginas, their vulvas. We were never, ever told about it. It was like, you know, don't talk about it. That's women's issues. Put up and shut up. So women would have babies and they might be leaking or incontinent. They might be getting regular UTIs. They may be sore and uncomfortable down there, not able to have sex anymore. And they just put up with it. And their confidence went, and maybe their relationships may have suffered as well. But they just put up with it. Prolapsed uteruses, where, you know, your uterus or even your bowel or your bladder could come into your vagina because of the weakening of the pelvic floor, etc., and the weakening of the vaginal muscles. So I would have seen that a lot in the pharmacy. And then I was asked to do a talk a series of talks for bio wellness, actually. And I did that. And it was my first kind of public talk, really. Before that, it was kind of like I was talking to reps in pharma companies and stuff like that. And I was asked to speak about women's health. And I said, well, what aspect do you want me to speak about? And they're like, I'll just talk about anything. I was like in my head going, how long is a piece of string? But as I was driving down to Athlone to do the first talk, I was like, I want to make this engaging. I want women to sit up and listen. So I'm going to talk about orgasms and sex. So I went in, and the first thing that I said is 5 main pillars of health: checking yourself, diet, sleep, exercise, and orgasms. And sure, I had them. I had them.
Yeah.
And then after the talk, there was like a queue of women that came up to me to talk about incontinence and prolapse and say, I've never heard anyone say that out loud in a room. I've been leaking for 15 years. I'm too embarrassed to talk to my doctor. I've never told my husband. We haven't had sex in years as a result of it, and all of this. So, and then each subsequent talk that I did, I got a bit more racier and racier, and the more and more women came up. And then I did loads of little talks, and I kind of got a name for myself. So I was doing talks for pharma companies. I was doing talks for like accountancy firms, Microsoft, Apple, Google, all of those. And not Apple, sorry, Google, Microsoft, and a couple of those other big techs.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I need to take this nationwide and do a show. So I went home to my husband after like one of them and said, right, I'm doing a show and we're calling it Viva La Vulva. And he's like, oh, fuck. He's like, Laura, I've supported you with everything, but like calling a show Viva La Vulva. And I was like, yeah, well, like we need to get their attention.
What a great name.
But I did it. We sold out all over the country, and we ended in National Concert Hall on May the 5th in 2024. It was like a bank holiday Sunday. And we filled out the place, 1,200 women. And then we did it again this year, March 1st, we did a matinee and an evening show. So 2,400 women talking about their vaginal issues, their pelvic floor issues, sex. And it was brilliant. So that's really what drives me, because I feel that need. And I know that, say, if we tell all the women in Ireland now, and they tell one other person, or they tell their daughters, then we'll actually eventually have a nation of women that understand their health, and a nation of men that understand women's health too. Because some men do come to the shows, very few, but some men have been in my talks, as in like if I've done a company talk, there may be a few men in it, and the men always come up at the end and go, I wish I'd known that about my wife. I would have been so much more supportive. Or they say, I'm going to go home to my wife and I'm going to tell her what to do, or I'm going to tell her she can get help, or I'm going to talk to my daughter differently about her body. I'm not going to use the term Mary anymore. I'm going to use the word vulva, so she knows what her bits are. And yeah.
Because it's devoid of that lack of conversation, because the human mind will make up stories, and all of a sudden that becomes the narrative of why the relationship isn't working. It's just something simple, and the taboo doesn't allow it.
This is it.
That's great. I mean, I think of what you're doing, Laura, like changing the narrative in Ireland, like that no wonder you have so much energy for this, like the purpose. I can imagine the dopamine biologically that's just giving you driving
you've actually just said
forward.
that to me. Yeah, now that I think about it, that really is. And it's the DMs from women saying, you've actually changed my life. Like I just got one the other day saying, Laura, I just want you to know that like I suffered from migraines for years and regular UTIs, and I was being put to urologist and neurologist back and forth. And she goes, I was listening to some of your reels. I went into my GP and asked for HRT, and she's a gorgeous woman in her mid-40s. She gave me HRT and everything, all my symptoms have gone.
My God.
And that is like a woman my age who's, so there's so much of that. And then, there's women that do struggle. They may go to their GP and their GP still isn't fully educated in menopause and says to them, oh, I know you're 48 and you've 10 symptoms, but actually you need to wait till your periods have stopped and you're 51. That's not the case. Women need to go to another doctor or a menopause specialist in that case. But that's easy for me to say. If a woman has a medical card, she can't change doctors. So it's about getting that education out there for healthcare practitioners as well. And
there's a lot more work obviously that needs to be done. I remember hearing a story, and it quite shocked me. It was, I can't remember the athlete's name, but it was an English athlete, big name. But her trainer, when she was having her period, wouldn't talk about that. He was too old-fashioned, and he says, no, we won't have that conversation. So literally her performance on the track and field was impacted because of his old-fashioned ideas around this stuff. Like, that is crazy in this day and age.
But sure, we've just seen it with the camogie skirt short issue.
Oh,
and actually I had a lady on my podcast, one of my first podcasts actually, Margaret, and she's a physical therapist and she's very involved in the GAA and women's sports. And she was saying, like, so the sports that girls wear, the GAA shorts, they're just like versions of the males. So like when young girls develop and their waist goes in and their hips go out, they're not straight up and down like boys. So, the shorts ride up their arses. They're picking their shorts out of their bums before they go and
just
take
naturally.
Yeah, exactly. So they need to have like a body appropriate shorts for these girls, the t-shirts. Like they need to not be like straight up and down. They need to allow for breasts.
Yeah.
But none of this was being done then. I know that I think a sporting company actually messaged her after our podcast, because I put that reel out on TikTok, got like over 1 million views. So I think that she's working with a sporting company, a sporting clothing company to get those made. But yeah, so we're still quite behind. And like we're giving out about girls, young girls not partaking in sports. But
if the drop off is scary.
And it's really scary, but that drop off happens around puberty when they're getting their periods. They don't want, and even the squirt issue, like that is just ridiculous.
Make it easier, like these simple little things.
Yeah.
God. What I really want to talk about today, Laura, because the name of this podcast is Change is Possible. And it's about giving people hope for change. And the biggest thing, you've had so many changes in your own life and helping other people to change, but your business has absolutely flew. I've done a lot of work with EY, Frank O'Keefe, the managing director. He gave me an incredible opportunity at one stage to speak to the partner. So Ernst & Young are like a consultant firm, and they have a brilliant thing called EY Entrepreneur of the Year. And I know a few of them. Mick Slane, Brian Lee is an entrepreneur, the former CEO at Chopped, and I seen you were nominated as a potential for Entrepreneur of the Year. You were over in Japan. Tell us about, huge congrats on that, because
Thanks a million.
For people that don't know, that is a huge deal in the world of business. Like it's a big, big deal. It's an incredible. So tell me about how this come about. Where did this all happen?
So I was nominated, and then I was nominated. Then you go for an interview. I think, I don't know how many people they interview. They think they interview a couple of hundred maybe, and then it's whittled down to 14. So 24. So 24 finalists go to an area of the world with other alumni. So it was 140 of us on this trip. So it was 24 finalists, and then the rest were alumni, people that have like been finalists before.
Which you can go on now in future.
Yeah. I'll be there next year, Brian Lee. And you go and you just basically immerse yourself in the business world of another country. So we went to Japan this year, a very different country, very different culture, very different lifestyle, amazing to see. Although I didn't see very much Tokyo. We went from business meeting to business meeting. I saw the fish market and I saw the Tokyo Stock Exchange, but like it's a full-on heavy going week with the idea, and I now really fully understand it. It's to immerse yourself in the company of other entrepreneurs, learn about their business, them learn about your business, and see how you can maybe help each other or advise each other, or just listen to the way they've done things and see it as an opportunity for you to do other things as well. So it was fantastic. I'm still reeling from it. Like I'm just over the jet lag. I'm just back about a week and a half. So it was tough because you go over there, and obviously when you go east, the jet lag's worse because you literally lose a day. And then no sleep. So my sleep was all over the place. But yeah, so I pushed through it though, like a proper powerhouse. And but it was fantastic. And now I think that there's various summer events that are going to happen. And then we have the big pitch in September, which is like where you go and pitch your business to the judges. And then the final in November, there's the final winner. Winners are announced in a big kind of to-do over in Powers Court. But they do say continuously that we're all winners, as in the fact that you're made. They're like the fact that you're a finalist means you have won. You're in the group now, and basically
in the club. Yeah,
you're in the club, and you're part of this fantastic networking opportunity. And there's people on this group that will absolutely help you out. I'm already on this WhatsApp group that they have, and the back and forth, and like someone just put in a message there the other day saying, "Hey, anyone know X in this country?" And like, it was like 3 people went in with an answer. So there's always somebody in there who's probably made the mistake that you've made, or can help you not make the mistake that you're just about to make, or help you with a contact. So really, really good, because it can be difficult in business. Like particularly, like I am a pharmacist, okay, and I'm good at chemistry and I'm good at formulating things, and I'm
good at hustling.
I'm good at hustling. I'm good at talking to people. Definitely good at talking to people, extracting information out of them, learning from them, but not great with like business as such. I wouldn't have thought. Like I didn't know what a margin was. Like honestly, didn't know what a margin was. So I have really had a very steep learning curve, even just learning about, ads on Meta and how to do email marketing and all of that, like all very new to me. But yeah, so steep learning curve, but I absolutely love it. So I've gone through massive changes in the last, 3 years, but even, up to then, like my whole life has kind of been one big change, time and time again. But I suppose I was in the pharmacy for 20 years, so that was pretty stable in between having babies and stuff like that and going on maternity. But it was pretty much like, that's what I did. But definitely the last 3 years has been mental. It's had its up and downs. Now, it's not all been like rosy. And just to say that to people as well, like you can't expect it to be really easy. It's fucking tough.
It's tough, and I do want to get into a bit of that advice for people with the hustling element as well. But I think some of my pillars, I think connection is just really, really important. And I've noticed from yourself, Laura, when I went on your podcast, and the first time we met was at an image event there about 2 years ago. And
my God, I remember that.
That's where I met Tara Rafter.
This is really interesting. Yeah. I'm going to an image event tonight.
Oh, are you?
Because I won the Businesswoman of the Year award, the startup, and they've got a panel discussion tonight.
I love image. Is Dominique running that?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's.
Do you believe in like synchronicity and the universe telling you things? Like the fact that I'm here with you now today, off all day,
talking about Tara,
and then the image event is tonight. And we met at the original one. Like, do you think that's all like the planets align, or there's some kind of something in the universe?
And what did I just bring up as a topic just there a few minutes ago? Connection.
Yeah,
it's that connection piece with humans, and I definitely do think there's, like, as they say, it's a cliche, we all came from stardust, but there's some sort of connection. And as much as I love science, and you as a pharmacist and a chemist, there's so much we can't explain.
And energy, you can't explain energy.
No. And we'll never be able to explain energy. So I think it's really important to recognise that. But since I met you, you've reached out. I don't know if you're even aware of this. You've reached out to me and just said it to me loads of times. If you ever want help on your podcast, if you ever want help on your business, give us a shout. And talking about the people that you met, Brian Lee of Chopped, he was the CEO of Chopped. I brought Brian. Brian very kindly came into Oberstown Children's Detention Centre to talk to the kids that struggled with trauma in there. And with EY, he was saying, I'll jump into the group. I'll ask them to be mentors for these kids when they leave Oberstown. Like, just the willingness to give there as well is just so crucial. And it's just great to see that, especially in that world of entrepreneurship where we were talking about it before we went on air. Like, a lot of people in the world think there's one pie, and if you get a slice of the pie, there's less for me. But there's so many pies if you just give and are purpose driven, and it's not about accumulating wealth. Me.
100%.
Just giving out, and you get so much back.
100%. And there's room at the table for everyone. And even, if someone else brings out a mushroom brand, great, because there's other people talking about mushrooms then.
Push you more.
So this is it. So it isn't a case of there's a finite amount of anything.
Yeah.
I think that if you have that abundance attitude, then you can only ever be happy then, can't you?
Yeah. 100%.
Like, it's so important. And like that, so I've done talks to women in the Doka Centre. And, so I've done my Viva La Vulva talk there. And those women sat there, and the governor actually said, she goes, Laura, they never usually sit for an hour and listen. They'd be in and out for smokes, or, they might get a bit restless or something like that. She goes, but they literally sat there and listened to what I was saying, because I suppose they've never heard about their body being talked about that way either, and they can go and get help. And I think it's just so important that we reach those marginalised people in society, because it's all well and good us thinking, oh sure, they must be terrible people because they're in prison. It's absolutely not the case. I don't think you're ever born bad. It's circumstantial. And a lot of those women that are in that prison would have maybe fathers or mothers that were in prison, or maybe come from families that have addiction, or, there's so much to it. And I think that we need to be open to that, and we need to absolutely want to help people and not just keep everything for ourselves.
Yeah, talking about the Doka Centre as well though, I do a lot of work within the prisons, and I done a talk in the Doka Centre. It'd be about 1.5 years, 2 years ago now, and it's always a chance that I could know people from my past when I went in. But I met two people, like a really good friend of mine that was partner in crime kind of thing, and the heroin business, doing heroin, whatever way you want to call it. And then another good friend that I knew since I was about 7 or 8 years of age, and they went down some very dark paths. They had massive challenges, and they had nothing, but they were teary-eyed and emotional with the joy that they had for me. And I'm like, they're locked up in this prison and they're just so happy for me. It was one of the really emotional moments, and it was just a special thing, and circumstances done that to them. Trauma and challenges that they faced, that's what done that to them.
Like, we're products of where we're born, the country we're born into, the family we're born into, the area we're born into, the poverty or wealth that we're born into.
Yeah.
And no baby is born wanting to go into prison.
No.
Or wanting to do drugs.
No. Absolutely
like, that is the reality. And I think that, we need to be much more understanding. We need to get the fucking housing crisis sorted.
Yeah.
We need to help people more. We need to use whatever voice that we have to try and do that.
Yeah.
It's just so important. Even like I did a talk for women with intellectual disabilities there about their menopause, and they loved it too. It never would have been discussed, and they never. What's so funny? I mentioned the word sex, and they were all like,
Yeah.
But the key worker was saying to me in there, she goes, we have a challenge because obviously from a protection point of view, we've always told them this is their private parts, and no one should touch that or talk about it with them and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
which
now
is
we're trying to
obviously important,
really important from a protection point of view for people that are vulnerable, but then now they're trying to kind of undo that in a way that gets them to talk about the things that go wrong when they're in menopause or perimenopause, so they can go and get help. So they're not just dealing with pain and discomfort the way a lot of women do.
Even the word private, that's a problem in itself, isn't it? It's private, it's a secret, don't say anything to anything, which obviously can serve a purpose, but that can become a challenge. But bringing it back to, I didn't think we were going to go down this route, but people in prisons, people in addiction, people in poverty, you need to be a hustler to live that life. Like I hustled, like my business is flying at the moment and I had to hustle, but I've hustled far more in the depths of addiction, trying to get it fixed, trying to get money for that in the day. And I think I learned a lot of skills subconsciously back then as well. And I think in terms of yourself, with what you've done with the business, what would your advice be? Because I know a lot of people are working in jobs. You have to pay the bills, you have to pay the mortgage. But if somebody was thinking about starting a side hustle or following their passion, their dream, their purpose of what you're doing and having that energy, what advice would you have for people starting a business?
Just do it. I'm kind of off the frame of mind, do something and ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah.
Don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. Because even in the, when I started doing my Instagram, I was doing it in the dispensary, with the medicines behind me. And I suppose maybe like if I'd asked my bosses, could I? They probably would have said no. So I just started doing it. But then I suppose the customers started coming in as a result of that, and it was okay. But I actually do think you just need to do it. But it is very scary. It was scary for me. I left a full-time job, permanent, pensionable, could have been there for the rest of my life if I'd wanted to do this business, because I knew that I couldn't work in the pharmacy as a supervising pharmacist and then also do this. So I did have to leave and take a chance. And I think that business is going great now. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I'll never ever say I regret doing it, or that I'll never be able to say like, oh God, I wish I'd done that because I went and did it. And I think that sometimes there'll be something sad about getting to the end of your years going, geez, I wish I'd tried that. So at least if you try and fail, and no one gives a shit actually if you fail. And I think that sometimes we're obsessed with, oh God, what will that person think? Like I just told you, I was worried about what my peers might think, and I've had nothing but respect and encouragement from my pharmacy peers, most of them. I haven't heard any badness anyway. Don't start now. But I think that people actually, they're behind you. They want to see you succeed. But if you fail, they're not like all laughing at you behind your back either. No one cares. Everyone's too busy with their own lives. So do it, try it and see how you go. And like, I didn't succeed first time around either. Like I did try in 2017 to bring something to market, but because I didn't really have the business sense, I didn't really know how to go about it. So that was shelved after the years of research and the years of, I'd even had my graphic design, I had the name and everything. And then I thought it wasn't going to happen because I just wasn't able to do it. I remember not filing my annual return, my financial annual return, the first year of, in brackets, training, because I hadn't even started trading. So I was like, oh, sure, I don't need to do that because I've no. And then I got fined by the revenue because I hadn't filed the financial return. Yeah. So then I had to wind down whatever I was doing, whatever I'd started. And that was a depressing day because I was like, geez, I'm never going to bring this to market. And that was probably my ADHD too, like impulsively doing something and then maybe not quite following through with the really other important stuff like the annual return or the returning of emails or things like that. But if you know how to build a little team around you that can do all that for you, then you can be the one that pursues all that. So yeah, I'd say do it.
Yeah, that's the key as well, isn't it? Focus on what you're good at and then try to outsource the other elements.
You can't
as well.
do everything. You absolutely can't do everything. So you do need a team that understand that, what their role is and that they can pick up for you where you're really weak. Yeah.
I remember as well with the business side of stuff, I'm just terrible with accountancy and stuff. So I got an accountant, but I had a VAT bill and I just didn't pay it. So I'll do it whenever. And it sort of went down my head, but it was there. Like I just hadn't gotten around to it. And I got this letter saying, like a really dodgy letter saying the sheriff will be knocking at your door. It says there's an actual sheriff in Ireland. Like what's that
I didn't
about?
even know there was a sheriff either. He'd be knocking at my door if I hadn't got someone good to look after that for me. either. So yeah, so after that incident, I remember thinking like the next time I do it, or if I do it again, I need to actually be properly prepared. So I did spend time then thinking about like, how am I going to do this properly from a business point of view to actually not end up in trouble with with all of that. Yeah, exactly. So, it's so just to let everyone know that sometimes your first time won't be successful, and maybe your second time won't be, but your third time might. So it's about, if you really want to do something, I'd say do it, because you could regret it if you don't.
Yeah. And I just think there's a great opportunity today to become an entrepreneur. I think 10, 20, I don't know the stats on it, but years ago, there's only like 10% of people were entrepreneurs. I think it's 50% now, because people can have this. Yeah, the levels have gone up. People having their own businesses. And even my stepdaughter, like she creates these beads and these little things. She has this entrepreneurial spirit, and it's like to foster that. But I think you need a bit of boldness. You need to give it a chance, give it a go. But if somebody was starting a side hustle, or they're trying to create a business, and it doesn't, like, for some people might be thinking, oh, what will I sell? Just buy something for a price and sell it for a certain price. Like, it doesn't have to be that
you don't have to like form.
Complicated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, of course, like obviously mine was like a lot of R&D and like formulation and stuff like that. But like, just find something that you're good at. I suppose you need to want to do it. You need to be good at it as well, and you need to really...
Spirit has to be there.
Yes, it does. I know people talk about passion, but maybe more spirit is what you're talking about, and you really want to do it. And as long as you're not flogging shite to people, and it doesn't even have to be like selling a product. It could be selling a service. It could be selling, I think you should be doing programs all over the world, Brian, that people could do online and things like that. So, I think that there's opportunity. And, to be honest with you, the shows came about from like corporate talks that I was doing. So and that's like almost like a different business to the supplement business. And I have a book coming out in September, which is another add-on. So I think, I do believe that if you do one thing, it leads to another thing, and you might meet someone and they'll give you an idea and that'll lead to another thing. And
that's right. And I think that's
like a snowball.
It's a snowball. That's really, really important, because like you might have an idea and a goal, but it probably won't be where you're going to finish. But it's like you said at the start, take a chance, take the action. And maybe you're in a job at the moment that's paying the bills, but get it to a certain level where you can say, right, this could be something, and then you could take the risk to move.
100%. Like, and I know there's only so many hours in the day, but you could definitely do a little bit of work. Like, that's what I was doing. Like, I was working full time in the pharmacy. Well, 4 days a week in the pharmacy. So say my 5th day, I'd be in the lab, or I'd be doing other things, or in the evening times or the weekends as well, in between, minding the kids. I suppose I've told you I'm the type of brain that's always on anyway. Yeah. But there, you can always make time, even just a couple of hours, to do something. And it may take years because you're not able to throw yourself into it full time yet. But if you do it and keep chipping away in it, and you believe in yourself, and you have other people that believe in you too, I do think that you need a few cheerleaders, don't you?
Definitely, but that giving yourself time, it could be years like this. There's no overnight success. I remember talking to Joe Wicks one time, and it always sticks with me. He calls himself a 10-year overnight success.
Well, I'm a 20-year.
20-year overnight success, and that's what it looks like. People all of a sudden, they say, Laura, oh my God, she's just at the making this business and entrepreneur.
She's popped up out of 3 years ago or whatever. Absolutely not the case. It was 20 years in the making. Because it was 20 years learning and talking to people. It was the R&D. It was all of that. So it is definitely, no one is an overnight success. If they are, they're very low. Actually, I think if people are overnight successes, I think they probably find it very hard to take, because it could be actually too much. Because you need to learn so much along the way. Yeah.
You don't have the tools to equip yourself.
Yeah. You need to develop a little bit of a tough skin.
And tell me about the book. What's the title? What's the title?
Love Your Vulva. What else?
What else? What else?
Yeah. So a celebration of women's bodies. And I've shared some of the pictures with you, and they're fabulous,
aren't
they?
Unbelievable. The artist, she's
amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah,
she
so
really
Marie Roach, she's the artist. She is a nurse. She works in oncology in St. James's. She is an unbelievably talented artist and a good friend. She helped me to design and my show Viva La Vulva, as well, as in like she organised it for me, did all that kind of like ops work. And then when I had the idea for the book, this is a book that talks about women's bodies, talks about maybe the shame that we would have had about our bodies and how we can like not have shame going forward. And it talks about all the things that can happen, so anything from thrush to BV to STIs, but also then the changes that happen in our perimenopause and menopause years. Very much focused on the vaginal, the vulval, the pelvic area that no one else likes to talk about. Prolapses, all that. So I wanted to do it where it really is a celebration of women's bodies. So beautiful pictures of their bodies, celebrating all shapes and sizes, all colours. and lots of interesting information that women can just pick up the book at any page and learn something really easy to read as well. I wanted it to be a book that wasn't just really text dense. So it's beautifully designed by a lady called Shika, and we've popped certain sentences out of the book so they draw your eye in, so you know exactly what that page is about. So someone, say, that doesn't necessarily want to read really text dense, they can see what that's about and go, oh, actually that looks interesting, I want to read that.
You showed it to me, just a sample of it and of the pictures, but I was drawn to the text. I was like, I want to read that. And it was nothing to do with the actual, I don't need to read about my own vulva for obvious reasons, but it was like, it just like, oh, that looks easy and nice
Jumps
to read.
Out at you. And actually my thinking was I want people, that, so obviously neurotypicals can read it absolutely, but sometimes neurodivergents, they need their eyes to move across a page and they need to be drawn to something. So that will really help them too. And then obviously the pictures just absolutely make the book a beautiful specimen. So
incredible, because it's no mean feat writing a book. It's I think anyone that when you go through the process, like it's a mammoth process.
Well, yeah, because you think like, oh, I've all this stuff in my head, I'm just going to write it down. And actually, you can write it all down, but it's the editing to make it actually
the structure,
cohesive, comprehensive.
Easy to read, as you said.
This is it. And like when you're talking medical, I've read enough medical books now myself, and I can, I'm a pharmacist and I understand a lot of the terminology, but even I find myself switching off half the time. Yeah. I didn't want people to be doing that with this book. I wanted them to really want to consume it. Yeah.
Accessible.
Yeah.
It's funny, Laura, today I thought the podcast Change is Possible. I thought we were going to be talking a little bit about your own story, which we did. Entrepreneurship is what I really wanted to jump in. We touched on that as well. But I think the real essence of what we talked about today, Change is Possible. It's changing the narrative around women being able to talk about these things, changing the stigma around that. I think that's a lovely way to finish. Is there anything else you wanted to chat about?
No, there isn't. Just, do you know what? I just would encourage anyone, man or woman, to go and get help if they need to. Don't put up with subpar health. If you are feeling less than 90% and your quality of life has been impacted, talk to someone, talk to a pharmacist, a nurse, a doctor, but get help. There is definitely help out there. Really, really important that you don't just put up and shut up the way I suppose my granny would have done, or, your mother maybe, or my mother even to an extent. Just women that have never really gone and sought help. I think it's really important that there is help out there. They just need to know where to ask.
And don't wait 10, 15, 20 years.
No.
Like that the one thing that jumped out at me from what you told me was there was relationships where nothing was said for 20 years, where if someone was just vulnerable and took the advice that you've given just there, go and speak to your doctor, speak to someone, bring it into reality. Because the best things in life are often on the other side of fear. It's that little fear thing that holds you back when it's nothing.
Exactly.
It's all in your head.
Yeah, exactly.
The biggest fear.
Yeah, 100%.
What a great way to finish. Seek out, ask for help.
Thanks
so much, Laura. This was an absolute pleasure.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Really easy. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. If you enjoy this content, I've created a range of online courses around mindset, mastering your self-talk, unlocking the secrets of addiction recovery and morning routines, and many, many more. If you're interested, simply click on the link in the show notes and use the word resilience to get free access to all of that content.